Right, it is O2BAM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball, and we're slowly but surely working our way through the various online movie box sets providers, and our latest stop is to Netflix's Sunderland Till I Die.
My favourite player when I was growing up was Niall Quinn, so my firstborn son, I decided to call Niall after Niall Quinn.
Sunderland is a massive, massive footballing city.
And a shot blocked. Honeyman. Penalty.
The last 10, 12 years, we've been in the Premiership.
So penalty now to Sunderland. Chance to pull a goal back.
Unfortunately, it's just went wrong.
Another manager gone, another relegation. The problems run deep.
Let us pray for Sunderland Football Club and for our city.
Most people have seen season 1 of this. Season 2 has just been launched this week. And I'm delighted to say to pick through it are people at various stages of both seasons. Owen Sheehan, you're just started the entire thing, Owen, is that right?
Yeah, well, I was going to go straight in and do season 2 when this came out this week. I think one of the biggest regrets of my entire life is not getting on the bandwagon of season 1 when it initially came out. And there is too much. There's too much to get through at the moment to be able to have had time over the last couple of weeks to actually binge all of season 1. So I'm late to the party. We're going to have to trust the reviews of people like Kieran Bradley here to actually let us know what's happening in season 2.
Yeah, not having the biggest regret of his entire lifetime. Partly of Off the Ball. You've watched the entire thing.
Yeah, I've subjected myself to that. If the end of the world itself wasn't enough.
It's a fantastic television, though, right?
It's great TV. For people, most people have some awareness of it, right? The origins of it were that the previous owner, Ellis Short, and apologies for spoilers here, like we have just been saying before we went to air, it is a little bit like the Titanic. Everybody kind of knows, and actually in more ways than one, everybody sort of knows how this thing ends up or where they're at the minute, or at least it doesn't take you much to find out. But the previous owner, Ellis Short, was wanting to shift the club off his hands for a long period of time and felt that making this behind-the-scenes documentary, the warts and all, would somehow make it a more attractive proposition for investors, which seems like such a flawed promise to begin with. And certainly when you look at the end product, Kieran, I can't imagine there was a huge amount of investors looking at it going, woof, now here's a proposition I need to get involved with.
Well, flawed premises are something you pretty much associate with Sunderland throughout their history, and it's something they've kind of completely excelled in before, and this is a situation they're at again. Yeah, I mean, like, it's fantastic. I'm honestly of the opinion that this is one of the best sports documentaries around, because on the one hand you've basically got like people trying to explain the concept of Sunderland as a city and as a club to essentially an American audience. And then on the other, you have football fans like ourselves who are just well versed in the situation with regard to the club and just seeing it from top to bottom as a complete shit show. So from the outset, I mean, you're introduced to Stuart Donald, who's the new owner, and the director Charlie Methven, who's this kind of golem of like Englishness. It's amazing. He's almost appeared out of the ground
in season 2.
In season 2, yeah, this is season 2. So yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, and really pretty much from the get-go, you've kind of got pretty mixed feelings towards them. Like, on the one hand, you're kind of really willing them to do as well as they possibly can, for the simple fact that, the fans have been through a great deal over the last few years and just seen this kind of carousel of people come through with various intentions and skill sets, and now you just want them actually getting back to it. But also they're actually reasonably likable people. So I've really enjoyed it thus far, and yeah, I'd be interested to know how you lads are feeling about it too.
Well, we better get Owen's thoughts, I think, initially, because some of this is going to be totally lost on you, and you'll have no reference to anything to do with Sunderland, obviously, in the modern era, other than season 1, which was last season. So what are your impressions or your expectations having seen one episode of season 1?
I think that, is this, like, okay, so we have to realise that everybody realises that they're being filmed. That's a thing that we need to realize. Like, I think sometimes if a club is failing and they have cameras on them, we sometimes, as a viewer, almost forget that we're like, oh, they've completely let their guard down. But in actual fact, they probably haven't. That I do wonder if the whole awareness of the fans is something that is pushed forward a little bit too much by the club, by the manager, by the players sometimes. Like, I think in season 1, Simon Grayson is talking about the fans and saying, you know, they're working class people, they expect you to work hard at the very least, which seems like a very big thing to say on a PR front. It's a great thing to say, and it'll make your club look great on a PR front, and your fans will thank you for saying it. I just wonder if that's actually touching on reality. I just wonder, as things get more real, as the struggle gets more real for Sunderland throughout season 1, and they're just in a constant struggle come season 2, I'd imagine, does that actually disappear a little bit? That actually they don't care about the fans as much as they did, because success and climbing through the divisions is the only thing that motivates them anymore.
I would say with this, actually, this is one of the real positive elements to the two that are in there at the kind of, you know, the head of season 2. Like they genuinely do seem to care. Like whether that is on the fans' behalf is one thing, but genuinely from a kind of a personal pride and a collective pride, actually, for the city, they want the city and the club to be doing better. So there's this scene in season 2, in episode 2, where Charlie Methven, this kind of very well-to-do English guy, goes into this really hardcore sort of Sunderland supporters club in Seaburn, which is it's a pretty salubrious part of town. And you know, he speaks to them in no way kind of patronisingly, just saying, look, this is how it is. We came into this situation where the finances were an absolute shit show. The finance people didn't know where the money was. And the fact was that they would come into the situation at the end of every month where they would just basically send off a check to Ellis Short and he'd write off the debt for the month. So they didn't have any feeling of kind of ownership, of agency over the situation. And the lads have come in and they've tried to, in fairness to them, sort of say that, look, this is on you, lads. Like we all need to be pulling into this together so that we can actually get where we want to be. And I think occasionally you get these kind of odd situations. Oh, and I'm sure you saw it in episode 1 where Charlie's kind of stood in front of his series of bemused employees talking about this business is 100% fucked, like, and then just kind of goes into this tirade. But like I have no doubt that that's a genuine feeling. Like if you've any kind of business sense or acumen going into that club, you would just be like, this is madness. How has this been allowed to happen for so long? So yeah, I mean, actually, that's one of the more positive points.
I would say that I'd spent a small bit of time, like few days up there at some point, probably about a decade ago or more. I was actually making a far less heralded documentary about Sunderland and the Irish connections. And like in terms of the connection with the city and with the fans and all that stuff, like it's such a cliche. And I don't know if that was the point you were making on, but like how many of these clubs do you hear, it's such a club and a great connection with the fans. It's unbelievable in Sunderland. Honestly, having spent a lot of time around there at that time and walked the streets and spoken to people who connect with the club and a lot of people who had no connection with it, it was very much hooked around the influence that Niall Quinn was having in Sunderland at that time, obviously having gone through the various gamut of roles that he had there. But make no mistake, when it comes to Sunderland about the connection, it's the one thing that I feel very comfortable looking at the documentary. That's a very genuine connection there between club and town.
Because that's what my curiosity and my cynicism is, how real this thing is. I just found it very interesting that when the manager is in a room where he would ordinarily be talking about tactics, he is talking about the social status of the class, I should say, of the large swathe of people who come to the stadium and like to watch them play. I just found that very interesting. And clearly, according to what you guys are saying, that's authentic. That's legitimately part of the foundation of the club and has to be a part of every manager that comes in. And my honest expectation was that this is almost set up to be a spectacular fall, because even the PR persona of Sunderland Football Club might actually get eroded as the episodes go on and as the struggle gets a bit tougher for the team, I think.
I think that the single biggest success of this documentary is that actually, when you think about it, there should be so many parallels to the Cristiano Ronaldo documentary, i.e. it was made by the man himself, and obviously the filmmakers here had to have full and utter agreement from the top brass at the club to go ahead and make the thing. And you assume at any point they could have gone in and said, listen, this isn't going the way we want it. But actually, I think the truest success of this is that it actually does feel mostly like a warts and all piece.
Yeah, I'd agree. To be honest, there's one scene in, I think, episode 3 where the whole episode is kind of focused on whether they can beat this attendance record and really show that they've kind of arrived as a club and as an ownership structure. And Charlie Methven's on the touchline and speaking to the corporate communications manager, this lady, Sophie Ashdown, in a way that you wouldn't really speak to anyone in an office environment. He was effing this and effing that right in someone's face. And to be honest with you, in terms of, kind of editorial oversight, if you had any cop on about you and personal kind of, credit, you would probably say, I don't really want that in there because it didn't reflect well on him. But I think in general, actually, what that does show is that how fraught things are. I think one thing that you really come away with is an understanding, a better understanding of just how mad you have to be to try and own a football club. Like, it's just, your success and your failure is deemed on, by the slight angle of a ball at the end of a season. And, I'm not giving anything away, but that's becoming clear here as well. It's absolute madness. So for them to carry out this documentary in the way that they have is real credit to them, Ryan.
Can I just ask here, and after watching this all, it definitely felt that, from your perspective, it definitely felt that after season 1, the dominant emotion was people laughing at Sunderland. I'm not sure, is that fair or not? Is that the same emotion at the end of season 2?
No, I don't think so, at least not personally for me. Stuart Donald in particular is someone who just seems like a genuinely nice person. Like, he doesn't seem like this kind of, corporate bigwig hotshot coming in just trying to tear out the foundations of the club. He genuinely seems to care. And one of the things actually that isn't covered is how he kind of made his money. And, it's briefly sort of intimated. But he does really seem to care, and he goes and sits in with the fans, which, look, you can argue the toss one way or another, whether that's just a PR stunt, which, for most people it is, but he genuinely seems to give a shit about football, and that's a big thing. And even Charlie Methven as well, look, he has his faults, and he's a bit of a caricature in some ways, but he really does seem to care as well, particularly about the football and the whole kind of knitting together of the organisation. So, no, I think from my point of view, I really wanted them to succeed, and I would be surprised if many others wanted them to fail.
I have to say, I'm fairly fascinated by what's Charlie Methven? Is that his name? What's his role?
Methven, he's an executive director, I believe now is his role at Sunderland, but he's essentially kind of was a journalist and a marketeer, and you can really see that in him, in the kind of initiatives that he's bringing around and trying to get the fans involved, and also trying to really put a rocket up the marketing team and up the general staff within Sunderland. But I mean, his role on that, right? Like, it should be said first of all, for he looks like Paulie out of The Sopranos. One of the first thoughts that I had about him. He's got that sort of that sandpaper sort of foxiness going on around the side of it. It's anyway. So there's that going on. But it felt like, I mean, the rocket up the marketing team. So having watched episode 1 of season 2, I'm totally unsure about this guy, and I'm actually, it's probably the thing that's definitely going to draw me through it. But putting the rocket up the marketing team, I know it's been edited, but like he was saying, some of the stuff he was saying, even the staff that he was sitting in front of, like 4 or 5 people were sort of looking at you, they're going, what's this guy saying? I know, oh man, honestly.
His biggest thing was about changing the entrance tune at the start of the game. Man. They spent like 15 minutes talking about, like, in terms of the documentary, but 15 minutes on, well, we've always had this tune, but should we go with this other tune? And like him going to various, they've definitely painted him as a little bit of a loon.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, he, in a way, he's easy to caricature, and I'm kind of a little bit conflicted on this because he is absolutely the sort of the kind of joke figure in some ways, particularly with that sort of Tiesto Adagio for strings, trying to like bring the stadium and the crowd up. But he does seem to have something about him, and the marketing element that I was talking about actually kind of comes a little bit later in the series, where he sits down the team and really just says, it's basically on you if people are made redundant because you haven't done your jobs to do this. So that doesn't really sit extremely well with anyone. And I think, you talk about Paulie from The Sopranos. I think he's got a real element of, Lisa Simpson's kind of English fiance. Is this kind of like a bit of a, swept back hair and all this kind of caper. But I think somewhere in there's a reasonably astute businessman. He's just occasionally not really got the kind of patience that you probably need, particularly in this situation where you've got a staff that have just been beaten down over the years and just, sort of exposed to these worst elements of footballing administration.
Or the self-awareness at times. Like one of the comments that stood out for me from episode 1 was where he says about the owner, well, listen, he'd never accept this, but like, I mean, he knows that I'm the one with the big vision here. Like it was, the level of self-awareness was pretty lacking, I would think.
Anyway, left brain, right brain.
We got to wrap it up. What in terms of like, give us your 30-second sell, Kieran, as to for people who haven't seen this yet, know very much about it. Why should they sit down and invest some time in it?
What I would say is don't waste 30 seconds listening to me talking about Sunderland Till I Die. Go immediately to Netflix and watch Sunderland Till I Die. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's just an absolute Shakespearean tragicomedy working out in front of your very eyes. And I would highly recommend it as a caricature of an Englishman myself, Charlie Methven, something to behold.
Yeah, and it's the Titanic on. We all know what happens.
Take a guess. Just Google Sunderland results. Unfortunately, spoil like if you watch a real life football playing out in front of you in a Sunderland season, it's spoiler essential for this documentary.
Right, we have guests arriving. So on that note, we'll let you off. It's OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball with some special guests. I'll speak to you after these.
They spoke about your arm not being down beside your side.